it's 6:45. And we come on to one of my wonderful, wonderful colleagues. For those of you who would like to have a little bit of a backstory, you'll have to go to see Liberal Judaism's weekly email and bulletin, or go onto their website to see a recording of a session that Rabbi Monique and myself did this week relating to Musar, and a lot more about exactly what it is. We're not going to go over all of it. I might ask Rabbi Monique for a one-line definition just to get ourselves into the swing of things. I might then sort of add one of my own from my daughter who was listening in and enjoyed it. Actually, you might want to, so I'm just speaking to Tammy, you might want to ask Shai to come down because I think she'll really enjoy again, Rabbi Monique. It was a real honor to be able to listen to her introducing how Musar came into this country. She is one of those who brought it in. She spoke about Rabbi Marsha Plum, who influenced it. I spoke earlier, Monique, I think just before you came in, about how I enjoyed the spirituality sessions that Rabbi Marsha and Rabbi Eli gave during my time at Learbeck College. But so let's start off with a one-line definition of what Musar is before an idea about what you will do with a Musar revelation.
So I'm going to share my screen since I've got this. Hold on a second. And this is where Musar is kind of coming from. And some of you who were there on Wednesday will recognize this quote. At first, I tried to change the world and failed. And then I tried to change my city and failed. And then I tried to change my family and failed. Finally, I tried to change myself. And then I was able to change the world. So, Musar, in essence, is a Jewish ethical approach to life that helps us to realize our highest spiritual potential. And through daily application, Musar practice guides us toward becoming a mensch, a really decent, good human being. I think that's probably the best. You can shorten that, but I think it incorporates everything. So, whoops, I didn't mean to get there yet. So, just quickly, I've been teaching and studying Musar for, 12, 13 years now. And it's part of what I think about every day and how I engage with other human beings. And I know it's made me a better person. Doesn't mean I'm the best person I can be, but I'm always trying to be that person. And I love sharing it with others because I see that it's made a huge difference in my own life and see how it can really change how we approach other people, even when things are difficult, and how we can grow and expand to our best abilities and our best potential. So, So you're probably wondering, okay, Musar, this ethical thing, what on earth does this have to do with revelation? So Rabbi Ira Stone, who is one of two names you hear a lot in terms of what has kickstarted Musar, which almost died out during the Shoah because most of the teachers were murdered. But these two people, Ira Stone and Alan Marinas, really got things going again. And so Ira Stone looked at creation, revelation, redemption, and each of those things poses a question to us. And we're not going to spend time on all of them, but it will hopefully whet your appetite for more. So with creation, the question is, where do we come from? That's what it looks at. Where do we come from? What are our origins? Who do we turn to? What do we have in common? You can create your own list of questions. So that's creation. Revelation is about what must we do? And of course, that has other questions that get attached to it. It's like, well, what do we do to be able to do what we do? Or how do we know what we must do? So again, more questions get generated from the one question. And then the third one, which we won't get to, is where are we going? So where do we come from? What must we do? And where are we going? And actually, Musar incorporates all three But revelation is where a lot of the concentration is. What must we do? How do we know what we do? And we learn what we do. And this is the other link between Musar and revelation in terms of tonight, is there's a really strong link between Musar and Torah. The Musar masters were really steeped in Torah. There was an assumption that they really knew it well. And the challenge then was to see what was revealed, if you will, in Torah, or what were the underpinnings of Torah, and using Musar to live those values. And, you know, I always see, and I know Rabbi Aaron and I were talking about this the other day, that revelation is ongoing. It's not just this one point, you know, that we celebrate every year. And the way we do that is part of Musar practice, which I'll get to. But I want to start with a little bit of text study. And I know some of you who've been to some of my other sessions have seen this before. Not so much the first, but as you see, I've bolded. So you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against your countrymen, and you shall be loving towards your neighbor who is like you. And actually, Rabbi Simcha Zisselbrade of Kelm said that this phrase, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, was the central underpinning, the central thinking in classical Musar. And with the way he sees it, which we won't have time to unpack, but I'll leave you with this thought, is that it has to do with bearing another's burden with them. Not taking it all on yourself, but actually walking with them, but at the same time not doing it so that you're ignoring your own needs. So it's very much oriented towards taking care of each other while taking care of ourselves.
Just before you jump off this page then, Rabbi.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this piece of text, I think, is a fascinating one because it's so many of us struggle with it, and indeed our rabbis did, in terms of, you know, what on earth does this mean? Because they probably turned to their neighbor and thought, how on earth do I do that? But this is seeing this in terms of actually walking together.
Yes.
In a partnership. I just wanted to clarify that, yes.
Yeah, walking together. And so the translation I have there is, transparency is not my own. It's a translation I suspect came somewhat from Rabbi Simcha, but I learned it from some writings of Rabbi Louis Jacobs, who translated it that way. And what I think is so powerful about this, in terms of walking with somebody who is carrying something, helping them with their burden, is it's not, at least on the surface here, it's really about action. Right? It's about how we act towards each other. Loving toward is not necessarily a feeling. It's really, integrating all aspects of how we interact with each other.
Thank you so much.
And this is the other one that I wanted to just share with you this evening. And if you notice, they all go back, almost all the Musar texts end up quoting from the Hebrew Bible. So this one, the humble person learns from everyone, even one perceived to be lesser than them. As the verse states, from all my teachers I grew wise. And this is also important because sometimes we look at others and say all kinds of disparaging remarks in our head. Sometimes they leak out through our lips. And the reality is that we can learn from everybody. Everybody has something to teach us, whether it's how to act, whether it's how not to act, whether it's just wisdom that they share with us or knowledge. Everybody we can learn a lesson from. Even from animals, and this is the only one I can think of right now, but my dog is really clever, and I've noticed how he's started outthinking me. So when he thinks he's going to get a treat, he gets into position, he sits and waits, and now I have to be a little more creative with how I challenge him so that he doesn't instantly get a reward. But what that tells me, you're saying, well, where are you going with this? And what that tells me is that whether it's a human being or another creature, and this is another creature, so I've learned from him that it's good to sort of think through what somebody else might be thinking about what I'm saying or what I'm about to tell them, and consider what their feelings, what their reactions, what their emotions might be. So even from my dog, I grow wise from my human.
There's some incredible, the beauty of having different voices here this evening as well, and speaking about revelation in different senses. We may not agree with everyone, but,
That's right.
But each one there's an element where we might. As everybody knows, the Goldsteins are not the most petty of people, but you certainly taught me, and others have done, the beauty that one can learn, and each individual can, and therefore just be open to it as well.
Absolutely. I think even if we're sitting opposite one that we so vehemently disagree with, if we can take a few moments and step back, and I've done this with someone I really disagree with, and think, wow, actually they've constructed that argument really well, or they're really passionate about what they believe, and how would that be for me to be equally passionate about whatever it is that I'm advocating for. So even if the content itself is disagreeable, or, pick your adjective, I can still learn from that other person. And, sometimes they're even more patient than I am. So I have to say, so I can learn that too. So how do we do this? How do we get to revelation? How do we kind of scrape back? Well, it actually starts with ourselves. And that's the other part of revelation. It's not just revelation that you see in Hebrew text or in Musar writings. It's using ourself to study and to apply Musar knowledge and to see where things come up for us. So I am going to give you an example. So there are 3 steps to this: Hitlamdut, Bechira, and Teshuvah. The first one is about self-examination. So let's, for example, say that we are trying to practice anava, which I see as, it's usually translated as humility. It's really more about balanced self, so that we are respecting other people's boundaries and also making sure that they respect our boundaries in whatever form that is. So self-examination and kind of looking at what's coming up for us in a particular moment. The second one is our choice point. So going back to the example I just gave about somebody who's sitting opposite me who I might disagree with, I have an opportunity in that moment. I can either get upset or aggressive or withdraw, or again, pick your response, or I can choose something that's conducive. Maybe my choice is to listen in that moment. But at every juncture, at every interaction with another human being, we have a choice in how we respond. And I emphasize the word respond instead of react, so that we can perhaps do it in a better way than we have before. And the third one is Teshuvah, which we tend to hear a lot around the High Holy Days. But in this particular sense, it's Teshuvah, returning to our intention. So if it's about anava, if it's about balanced self, or it's about humility, that you return to the point of wanting to be balanced. And then you loop back. Sorry, I'm actually doing this on the screen and realize you can't see me. I'll do it with my arrow. So you realize you might be going off on a tangent, or you're not sure what to do at this point. And you, okay, what's my intention in this point? What I'm thinking in this moment tell me? So let's go back to what I'm thinking, and let's go to that. What are my choice points? Okay, I'm going to keep returning to my intention, whatever that intention may be in that moment. I'm going to pause. No? Let's see if there are any questions.
No, people are just very appreciative. So do carry on, because I think you're raising a lot of thought points for people in particular.
Good. So, actually, this isn't from Rabbi David Jaffe. I'm going to give you a guided meditation. Don't panic. You don't have to have meditated before. You can close your eyes or not close your eyes, depending on what you're comfortable with. But I don't want you to feel like you, need to, I'm going to stop share. There we go. So close your eyes or not close your eyes, or focus on something around you. Usually the expression is soft eyes, so you're not completely focused. You sort of, things go fuzzy around you. And I encourage you to just take a deep breath in and exhale. Another breath in and exhale. One more. And exhale. So I want you to reflect just for a moment on that phrase of, from all my teachers, I learned something. Or from all my teachers, I grow wise. I want you to visualize somebody in your life who you feel like you learn a lot from, that you could sit at their feet and learn all day. And you might even imagine yourself sitting there at their feet, learning. What are you noticing coming up in your body? Practicing self-examination. What emotions, what thoughts? And maybe even with the best of intentions, our mind wanders a little bit. And we notice, and we say, my mind's wandering. And you can choose to go back to listening to your teacher. Noticing each time your mind kind of wanders, you have a choice. And if your intention is indeed to have a balanced self, to be fully present while feeling the presence of your teacher and taking in the learning, move on to Teshuvah, you return to paying attention. Return to learning. And your teacher finishes, and you say thank you, you leave. Now, this time, I want you to imagine someone who you had a slightly challenging interaction with recently. I would pick someone who is not too challenging, just as a start. Take a deep breath. Make sure to release it. Breathing is always good when we encounter difficulty. And imagine that person in front of you. And as you replay the conversation in your head, notice what's coming up for you. Pay attention to what's going on in your body, what sensations, what thoughts, reminding yourself that this too can be one of your teachers. And there may be a point where you realize, where you have a choice. You say, at this point in the conversation, I had a choice. And this is what I said. But what could have been more balanced, more kind, more open? What would happen if I said that other thing? Or didn't say what I said? And each time your mind wanders, maybe you're trying to finish the conversation quickly because it wasn't pleasant. That third step is teshuvah, returning to your intention of looking at how you might shift in a balanced way, anava. Continuing to notice what comes up for you. What your choices are. Making a kind choice. A good choice. Always returning to your intention. And finish the conversation. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Any thoughts? I'm seeing lots of things in the chat. Yes, definitely about learning and telling yourself to respond rather than react, because we are so used to reacting. And I think after the last 2 years, everybody's very sensitive. I think we've been living a lot in fear and anxiety over the last 2 years, and to step back from that and consider what's in front of us and respond is so important for our own mental well-being and physical well-being, as well as that of other people around us. Yeah, Charlie, it's interesting because I think I mentioned this on one of the talks recently, that some people refer to Musar as Jewish CBT, but it's been around a lot longer. Any other thoughts? Lots of good stuff in the chat. Yeah, I like the idea. Thanks, Nova. The idea of shifting from I disagree with this person to what can I learn from this person's perspective that is so different from mine. Yeah, lovely. I think it makes all the difference then in how we can respond when we shift that frame with whoever we're talking to. So I know we...
It's okay, and we've got lots of chats. If you just go to the bottom of the chats, we've got lots more people now responding.
Oh, great. This has been around. Why have we not heard about it before? Well, in a nutshell, Betty, thank you. Great, great question. So before the Musar movement, Musar was mostly an introspective thing. It wasn't practiced in a group. People did it individually. And then in the 19th century, it became a movement, but it was really within the Orthodox community. In some ways, it was seen as a counterpoint to Hasidism. I know some people I've encountered have said, "Oh, you should be reading Tanya," because that's the work of that's the text that a lot of people through the Hasidic movements they use Tanya. You'd have to read Alan Marinos's book, Climbing Jacob's Ladder, to figure out why he discovered it, because that's his journey. I think it stayed mostly in the Orthodox communities for a long time. They were yeshivot, a number of yeshivot. And it's really only in the last 20, 30 years that it's started to be discovered by the progressive movements. And yeah, I wish I heard about it many, many years ago, but it's never too late to start putting things into practice.
I think, Monique, that we should say as well that this is something that has happened in liberal Judaism time and time again. There's some things, what you have just done is with us was very, very special, and thank you for sharing that. I'll come back to that in a second, but I think I mentioned this week that in 1977, my dad brought back Debbie Friedman.
Debbie Friedman, you were, yes.
And introduced that into our youth movement and then into our congregations. And most of our congregations have Debbie Friedman music throughout it now. And we have lots of other influences. And now we're writing our own music within our own congregations.
So some of it, I think, also from what you're saying is timing, is that I think when Debbie Friedman came in to everybody knowing her, she came in at a time when the young people were hungry for something like music that spoke to them, that really helped them connect with prayers and Judaism, and also was accessible. And she did an amazing job of doing that. And I think right now people are really hungry for a way to connect with their small t tradition, as I always say, and connect with their, we were talking about the other night about social action. How do you wed the two in a really thoughtful way that also honors who we are? It's not just launching into social action, but really being mindful of what our motives are and what our thinking is and how we can come into it from a place of values, of really good values. I did have, I don't know if we've
got 2 minutes left, so you can go for it.
I had a chant, and which I wanted to end with, if that's okay.
Please.
And no, let me see if I can. And I'll post, I know people are asking where to go further. I'll post something in the chat after I'm done. I have no idea what you see. Let's see.
All of your screen at the moment, but that's okay.
That's not the one I wanted. Hold on. There we go. No, let's try that again. Bishvili nivra olam. Bishvili nivra olam. Bishvili nivra olam. Bishvili nivra olam. Anochi afar va'efer. Anochi afar va'efer. Anochi afar va'efer. Anochi afar va'efer. Bishvili nivra olam. Bishvili nivra olam. Bishvili nivra olam. Bishvili nivra olam.